ऑफिस पे तो ठीक है भेज दिए
आपके अलावा पेन ड्राइव में दे दी मेरे को दे दो
जो हम NIST 20-5 नहीं आई है
अब ये लाइव यूट्यूब में, ट्विटर में, लिंक्डइन में कहाँ है, लिंक्डइन, ट्विटर, जूम में तो है ही जो आता है वो।
मेरा प्रिपरेशन इतना वर्ल्ड क्लास नहीं है इट्स एन एलिमेंट्री बेसिक अटेम्प्ट ओके विल डू अदर टॉपिक्स आल्सो
कहाँ पे
नहीं ये एक मॉडल
क्या जो है
नहीं,
जो ले
हम
एक बार कान में नाखिन था पर कुछ
अरे अब बनने पर नहीं कर सके ऊपर वाला पीपीटी के बने या नहीं तीन मटेरियल की
दोनों चाहिए ना
तीनों रख दो ना
1 2 3 पहले 3
रख दो
फिर 4 और 4 पहले
वो कर दो फर्स्ट वाला चल जाता है फर्स्ट वाला ही वो पिक्चर
कौन सा वाला करूँ ऊपर
लाइव आ गया लाइव में टीवी 23 लोग हैं
ओह ग्रेट
23 पीपल आ गए उसमें डाल देना ना हम आऊ के बाबू फिर जी के अच्छा फिर तक
this time I have not given to any of my friends
क्यों
I don't know forgotten
आवाज आ रही
हाँ जी बोल
हेलो 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 हेलो
हाँ हाँ ये स्ट्रीमिंग में तो बेहतर वेट मॉडल चलता है कैसे नहीं लगता
यस सर प्लीज
yeah
एक स्लाइड पे सकने में तेरी जाती है चल से चल चाहिए सर
introduce कर
It's starting up to 6:35 5 minutes wait कर
ये
ये भी देखो
या लेकिन ये हो जाता है ना तो
मैं आपको कीबोर्ड दे देता हूँ
हाँ
डन
तक में तो छोड़ना ही है
आपको वो दे दूँ
क्या आवाज बराबर आएगा
6:40 तक वेट करते हैं। आवाज आए तो मेरे को बता देना। एक सेकंड, मैं चालू बोलतो જ નથી અને સાંભળ કોઈ ચેક કરતો રહેજે હો, કોઈ બી વચ્ચે અવાજ આવે તો મને કહેજે. ઓકે. We are starting in 5 minutes time, 6:35. We'll be starting in 2 to 3 minutes time. Okay, and બરો અવાજ સાંભળે છે બરાબર? મને કહેજે, હું બોલવાનું ચાલુ કરું છું. કઈ બબલ થાય તો મને કહેજે. ઓકે, સ્ટાર્ટિંગ કોઈ બી વોઇસ ક્યાંથી બી આવે તો. ઓકે, ઓકે. Good evening, friends. Welcome to this workshop, this Zoom meeting. So our Isaka chapter Ahmedabad is on the third year. 2 years have been gone on COVID, but still we were able to maintain the increase in membership rate, the second highest percentage rate in last 2 years. We were second, and we were around 48% increase in last 2 years. 148, another 48 this year, with the blessing of God and with a few participants every way. And now we are going out of reach to even public also. We will go to university, we will go to some companies where we would explain what are the advantages of different courses which is conducted by Isaka chapter Ahmedabad. And we are also offering a CPE course. We are almost till date, only expenses we have incurred is to do SMS and asking people to join it. And we are planning to conduct a number of courses together. We are planning we had been taking workshop on every Friday at 6:30 on different subject. Many Bombay speaker has come and delivered the talk. And it is our privilege that today we have none other than Mr. Goodgo, who is working with Bank of Baroda. He is very much knowledgeable in the field of information system audit, security audit, and in particular about bank. And he has taken number of classes as on till date. So I invite again Mr. Gudgu to join us and to give a talk. And you can email me the question either in WhatsApp. My WhatsApp number is 9825804094. My WhatsApp number is 9825804094. And you can email me at nitinampathak@gmail.com, nitinampathak@gmail.com. Our blog is there. All the presentations are put on YouTube as well as PPT on our blog. So, and those who want the CP hours, just mail me or WhatsApp me, and we will give you CP certificate, which you can upload in the CP website. And I assure you, because today where I am because of these ISACA courses which I have taken. I've done CISA, CISM, and then number of courses. And today I'm introducing with Satya Gudguji. He is working with Bank of Baroda for years and years, and he's champion on the subject. With this, I hand over the mic. Any question on the subject, you can just WhatsApp me and email me, and CPA certificate will be issued very soon. With this, I hand over the mic to Satyaji. Welcome, and thanks a lot for allotting a lot of time. And generally, when a speaker comes, generally people give a memento and flower. And in our tradition and our ISACA chapter Ahmedabad, we neither give memento nor flowers. We wish them a good luck to explore in their different part of life, and we are ready to support you in full. And with this kind introduction, you just introduce about yourself, and anyone who wants to have a CP hours, just mail me. And those who are ready to have a different subject, call on us. This presentation would be available in blog, and many people are coming and downloading the presentation. With this, I hand over the mic to Satyaji. Over to Mr. Satya. Thanks once again.
Good evening, friends. Thank you for joining ISACA Ahmedabad, and thanks our founding president Nitin Pathak, his endeavor to reach throughout the country and his endeavor to continuously support the awareness of ISACA and also education through the continued professional CPE. Passionate attempt by him made ISACA Ahmedabad in the present status, and I also thank Dr. Kushru, the current president, and Mr. Nayak and other governing body members of ISACA Ahmedabad. I am working with Bank of Baroda, and I headed the IT audit function of Bank of Baroda. Around 6 years of application audit, data center audit, and oversight on various audits carried out by Big Four, and also Reserve Bank of India IT examination. And I'm having a UK operations of Bank of Baroda, Yaro audit we call, at the instance of regulator. I attended that along with my senior. I'm a CISA and a C-Risk and a CIE and CFE too. So we are learning, and we are still continue to learn. So though my core competency is application and systems audit, today for the first time I am making an attempt to bring the silent features of NIST cybersecurity framework. The beauty of this framework is it can be easily aligned with ISO 27001 or your COBIT frameworks, and it is scalable. So organizations, depending on their need and depending on their reach, they can implement the framework in a modular way. And it's a research carried out for 7 years. It's a result of a research and hard work put in by several people for 7 odd years, resulted in this wonderful framework. And appreciating the framework, understanding the framework, and trying to follow the best practices mentioned in the framework will put us a little better in the war with the cyber crimes, either intentional or unintentional breaches, and also to make us more resilient. So straight away we'll go to the framework. As I mentioned you earlier, the framework provides a common language for understanding, managing, and expressing cybersecurity risk, both to internal and external stakeholders. So it's the framework will make you and your clients also understand how secure you are. And it will also help you in identifying and prioritizing the actions for reducing cybersecurity risk. As the students of risk management, we are aware risk cannot be altogether eliminated. Risk should be continuously managed, and it should be in a tolerable level, and it should not be within the risk appetite of the organization. It should not go out of the control of the organization. So risk should be properly managed. So this framework will help us in identifying and prioritizing the actions that are required to reduce the cyber risk. And it's a tool to align with the policy, business, and technology approaches to managing the risk. Now IT become all pervasive. In fact, it's becoming the oxygen to an organization. Everywhere IT is involved, be it manufacturing, be it retail, be it BFSI sector is one of the largest users of technology since the past 3 or 4 decades. Manufacturing sectors also. And the last 3-4 years with the aggregators like Walla, Uber, and even food, whatever you, Zomato, like these apps came. So technology is touching us in every walks of our life. So this framework will put us understand the cyber risks and also in managing the risks. This framework helps to manage the risks across the entire organization, or it can be focused on the delivery of certain critical services also, wherever the regulators are not insisting for. This framework is a voluntary framework providing guidance for organizations to help manage their cybersecurity risks. And the guidance is based on existing best practice standards and guidelines, and provides a way of making other frameworks and controls sets align with each organization's unique cybersecurity needs. Be it the CAS controls, be it the ISO 27000 framework, the cybersecurity framework will help us to align those already implemented frameworks in achieving this framework. Interoperability or alignment with other frameworks will definitely, that is the advantage of this framework. Though I mentioned you that the cybersecurity framework is voluntary framework, it's not so. Actually, in US, the other day, yesterday in one seminars, somebody is telling a contractor who wants to deal with DoD, Department of Defense of US, he has to go for, he has to have a certain frameworks implemented, not ISO 27000. There are specific for DoD, specific, very stringent frameworks, very stringent security frameworks. And India, also we are aware in BFSI sector, the Reserve Bank of India came out with its own cyber security framework, I suppose in 2016. So, and cyber security framework was mandatory, is mandatory in public sector banks, private sector banks, entire. Actually, Reserve Bank will have a oversight on the scheduled commercial banks. Not only scheduled commercial bank, and it was extended to cooperative banks also, small finance banks also. The frameworks are a little different, those to be implemented in public banks and those to be implemented in cooperative banks. So though I say that CFS framework is voluntary, it's not so exactly. Those in the regulators have prescribed these frameworks. As students of ISACA, our we always information needs to be protected on 3 fronts. One is CAA triad that all CISA C-risk people knows, the CAA triad. Information should be in the CAA triad. It should rest within the CAA triad. The confidentiality, the integrity, and the availability of the information should always be ensured. So IT security or cyber security, their ultimate objective is to protect the confidentiality. That means the information should only be accessible to those who need to access it, or you are having the privilege to access it, and also to the extent they are accessing it. The concept of least privilege, need to know, need to use. The confidentiality is always required, and then the integrity of the information should be protected. The information should be protected from unauthorized modifications or destructions or loss, and the availability. The availability information should be accessible to authorized persons as and when required. So in India, we had a recent incident of controversy of NSC. That's on availability only. That's some people are having more access, are more quickly available to National Stock Exchange than others. So that's a matter being investigated by SEBI. So you understand the implications of availability. It should not be, it should be available, and it should be available uniformly to all people. There should not be privileges, and there should not be any deprivations also. So cybersecurity also, it confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So then discussing about the framework, it has a relatively small, simple structure. It is having 3 components. The core is the core comprises the organization's cybersecurity activities and controls. Profiles. The profiles map the organization's cybersecurity development, and the implementation tiers. The tiers describe the level of sophistication of the organization's cybersecurity. So depending on the organization's risk appetite, organization's landscape, threat landscape, or organization's ability to protect its IT assets, it can choose its own tiers. The framework core is the essence, the actual cybersecurity function that protects the organization. The core protects the organization. It takes a structured approach to managing cybersecurity risk and outlines the key outcomes of implementing the framework. The core has 4 elements. It is functions, categories, subcategories, and the information references. So the core has the functions, the categories, subcategories, and informative references. The framework functions are the famous 5. That is the identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. We'll be elaborately discussing about this. Our entire cybersecurity hovers around these 5 components: identifying the risks or threats, and protecting the information systems, and detecting any malfunctions or this one. Here, the timely detection will allow you to take a responsive to respond quickly. And the last one is the recovery. As cyber incidents are becoming more and more frequent of late, the respond and recover aspects also becoming very, very important components of this framework. As we are all aware, in a Pune-based cooperative bank, an incident happened a few years back. The ATM switch itself malware was injected into the ATM switch, and the bank was taken for a ride by the cross-country cyber criminals. So at that time, it took 3 or 4 days exactly, I'm not able to recollect, to restore the operations of the organization, because recovering to normal operations is a very critical component of the cybersecurity framework. And again, it should align with your business continuity policy. So there are a lot of alignments. Cybersecurity framework, entire framework should align with the entire IT infrastructure of the organization and IT security of the organization, and also like respond and recover. It should align with your business continuity, policy, and your cybersecurity recovery measures should be in consonance. Again, in each of the identified, protect, detect, respond, and recover, again, we are having the categories, we are having the subcategories, and we are having the informative references. Informative references is their alignment with COVID framework, or their alignment with ISO 27001 framework, and other frameworks. So that gives you a very good flavor, because already most of the organizations are ISO 27001 implemented, and it is mandatory. IT Act 2000 itself, 22 years back, itself prescribes. They don't prescribe, but to get a protection under that IT Act, you should have reasonable security measures like ISO 27001 framework. They have not prescribed anything, but to get protection under IT Act, that your systems were not compromised or used to do some illegal activity with something. So you should have a framework. It was suggested under IT Act 2000. So ISO 27000 is the framework that's very predominantly used in our country. And so alignment with this one means you can go for an effective implementation, and it is not multiple controls. Same control can be used for your ISO 27001, and the same control can be used here. So cost of controls can be reduced, and all total control effectiveness can be improved, and that is the advantage. The core 5 functions that organize how organizations how to organize cybersecurity activities in the previous slide I told you. Again, I am repeating, that is identify potential cybersecurity risk to your information assets and protect yourself against these risks by developing and implementing safeguards and detect any irregular activity to determine if breach have occurred. So I am from BFSI sector, and yeah, incident I mentioned to you a few minutes back about an incident happened, a breach happened in a cooperative bank, Pune-based cooperative bank. So actually PwC are some of the vendors were hired by the company, bank, and also other national agencies involved. They find that the malware is there in their systems for the past 3 to 4 months. And any advanced persistent threat or something, if they want to have a big targeted breach, and if they are determined breach, again, what I am telling you, targeted breach and determined breach, and if they want to realize some amount, suppose I want to realize 100 crores. So those kind of threats, those kind of breaches have happened when the threat agent was deployed into your system last 3 months or 4 months back. So detecting any irregular activity to determine if a breach has occurred, how quickly you detect, that will help you out. So that's why the regulators have suggested a lot of guidelines that the banks have to, that the banks and BFSI sector, they have to follow, and the security operations center and all, they are continuously 24/7 work for yearly detection, and that detection should be it should not be a false positive, it should be really an incident. Then again, the regulators have prescribed in India the reporting line 6 hours or something, cyber incident has to be reported to after you were detecting, after you were this one to the regulator, Reserve Bank of India. And now that even our CERTIN also coming out with the regulation, they are telling that any incident, anybody happens, they have to detect, report it. Earlier in our country, we had the reporting lines are weak, and we are never used to report under the pretext that any reporting will go for a adverse publicity. Western world, you will be showing that they will be telling that this much breach happened and this many accounts have been compromised, because they come and proactively they will detect them, so that the customers will safeguard their own interest, and it's mandatory there, and in India also domestically it become mandatory. And this reporting, quick reporting will help that the same threat agent won't be deployed in other environments, because one bank was affected, the same group, this whatever the groups, various groups are working, operating against India, against some their specific threat agents are there, geographic specific threat agents. So they don't immediately use it and all, and the regulators and certain agencies, like they'll be available to come to your risk. So they detect any irregular activity to determine if a breach has happened, and this respond to any detected breach to contain their impact. This respond that I suggested, I told you earlier also, now that the breaches are becoming more frequent and the breaches becoming the order of the day. So we should be how quickly we detect them and how quickly we'll be able to respond to them, and a very defined, matured process to respond to them. Actually, here only the things will start because unless we don't have a documented response manual, our business continuity also should help us here how to respond. An incident happened, how to respond. Documented process should be there, and agencies like CERTIN and all, they'll help us out. So this response is very critical to detected breaches, and also how to contain the breach, Okay, some virus attacked your systems, how your core systems you will protect from them, how you can do certain steps so that it won't quickly through privilege escalations or something, other systems, how you can insulate, contain the breach that happened to your organization. That's the greatest this one. That is the risk mitigation, not risk mitigation, risk containment. It won't spread further. It won't this one. He will not be allowed to enter into other systems so that the risk will be maintained at the same level. The risk will not be increased further. And then recovery is a great step. We have to, this is a core function of the cyber security, recover after breach happened, how you will recover from your breach, how you will restore and recover from breach. That's actually here the case studies should be there, and that's separate, in a separate class we'll discuss, separate webinar we'll discuss on what are the incidents happened either in the bank or in BFSS sector and all, how they could be able to restore their systems. It should be documented properly, and the organizations across the board should understand them so that if such a similar incident happened, what kind of measures we have to take. Again, Disaster Recovery International, a US body and all, US is having huge body of knowledge in this recovery activity and all. That's why if we go back to 24 by that US incident, what happened in that twin buildings, what is Morgan Stanley is a great case study. Any this IT savvy people should understand the business continuity of Morgan Stanley. The young CEO of the Morgan Stanley ordered when Tower 1 was collapsed, he evacuated, made the entire Tower 2 people to evacuate, so that he saved huge lives. So quickly a young CEO asked for emptying Tower 2, that also equally occupied by Morgan Stanley, and their New Jersey office is functional in 60 minutes or 90 minutes. One of the best business continuity efforts in the world so far. So that's people who are interested can see that Morgan Stanley incident of US Twin Tower collapse. After that, US is also so resilient. No such incident happened in US again. So we discuss about this identify function. It covers the asset management, not only asset management, IT assets. It also covers entire business environment, governance, risk management strategy. It should cover everything, but IT assets are the primary thing. But because you should identify the thing, then only you can protect it, and then only you should know what is the value of the thing that you are identifying. That only you can have a risk effort to protect it. So this identify is the, we have to identify, in this identify function, we have to cover all the assets of the management assets. We should cover the business environment, governance and risk management strategy. Then we have to carry out a risk assessment. And the cybersecurity controls we use are the three controls only: preventive, detective, and reactive controls. Recovery, prevention, preventive control, detective control, recovery control. So our ISACA body of knowledge, how it is fitting it to, we are protecting CIA, and the controls placed are preventive, detective, and reactive. Preventive cybersecurity controls also, which align with the protect, detect, respond. So the cybersecurity framework is protect, detect, respond. To protect, detect, and respond functions, the tools we use are preventive controls, the detective controls, and reactive controls. The preventive controls can be associated with the protect function. These controls are designed to either stop certain attacks from happening at all, or they are to reduce their likelihood. Such controls typically include firewalls, malware protection. So the detective controls the control that are generally associated with the detect function. They are look for evidence of the events and incidents, are designed to assist the process whenever anomalous activity on the network is spotted. Appropriate personnel and our systems should be alerted. Two common ways for detecting and countering any breaches are intruder detection systems and event monitoring. So the detective controls to detect you use basically IDS and event monitoring. IDS automatically monitors access to your organization's network and will alert you to any potential malicious activity or policy violation. Event monitoring, on the other hand, is a way to determine any breaches of suspicious activity. Okay, event monitoring will be something internal event breaches also. So logging beyond the office hours, some activity going about something. Actually, I will tell you if I again come back to this this incident of a cooperative bank. The first alert the cooperative bank received about the anomaly in behavior is from whom? It is from Visa. Visa told on a Saturday, Sunday, you are a small bank, your velocity of transactions have increased and the velocity of the transactions abnormally increased on a weekend. So event monitoring, Visa is Visa may be having effect to event monitoring, and we are lucky. We are lucky. The bank is lucky. Cosmos, the bank is lucky to use Visa, because for ATMs and all we use Visa Master. Now that we came our own RuPay, but Visa having that much alert monitoring systems, they alerted the bank something abnormal is happening in the activities of your bank. Like an Indian Prime Minister was shot dead by her security guards. It's the BBC that announced that the Indian Prime Minister got dead by her security guards. So in India also, in our same repeat of whatever 1984, Madam Gandhi's assassination, the same thing happened with this Pune-based cooperative bank also. I am true to great extent that it is the Visa that has given the alert to the bank that something abnormal is happening. So event monitoring is so much, very much required. And usually these incidents globally happen on a weekend where the people are on leave. So event monitoring should have logs, collections, management, analysis, and manual evaluation should also be there, and some technological evaluation should be there. Origin of the incident, for the origin of the incident and all. So the government bodies are also having, you have to have one timestamp. Timestamp should be proper timestamp should be there across your IT systems. So stamping, though, identify the exact time of the incident, timestamp synchronization of clocks is very important. So origin of the incident, identify the trends and make decisions to avoid potential problems. So we discussed about the preventive, detective and reactive controls, cybersecurity controls. We preventive, we told detective, we told IDS, event monitoring, and whatever the incidents happened, how event monitoring helped to make us understand that something abnormal is going on. Then the reactive controls, I told you earlier, reactive controls are very important because of the frequent nature of occurring the incidents of late. The reactive controls are designed to support the response and recovery functions. Okay, something happened, how I respond to it. Okay, some intruder entered into our village, how we react to him, like the Sholay movie, what are the things, how to react to them when the Dakus entered our village. So the response and recovery functions are very critical. They include the process that assists the quarantine process when an attacker has been discovered earlier also told. Risk containment. Containment means the risk should not spread. firefighting, they will try to contain, fire don't spread to the neighboring buildings. So how you will quarantine the process so that the attacker was, when an attacker was discovered, how you will quarantine him. Like in COVID, such similar framework, COVID, the Ministry of Health followed. You identify a person and you ask him not to go away. No? There is a framework they have Ministry of Health designed about this frameworks only. Deming's plan to check act, that is there, the frameworks are the same. Identify who is having a COVID person, he will spread. So retain him and tag him and retain him there and keep him, provide him medicines. That is the three-pronged strategy to come out of COVID in India. Similarly, this framework says whenever it was reactive control, you prevent him and isolate the breach network segment and prevent the attacker from continuing or exfiltrating the data. Usually what will happen, the data, he will have a software, he will induct in a software and he will exfiltrate data, and he is having his own hash figures and hash. He will keep your own data. He will store your own data in your own server, and he use his own algorithms, and he will exfiltrate the data, and he will siphon off your data to some remote server. So the moment if you identify somebody there, if you can continue him from not escalating to other systems, and if you can ensure that he don't exfiltrate data, that's highly technical and highly this one. If you do it, that the damage will be very much under control, and that means you are under reactive controls. Reactive and deterrent controls are designed to reduce the impact of the breach rather than prevent one from happening at all. So preventive controls are to stop somebody from happening, and detective is to immediately detect when it is there, and reactive controls are when already detected somebody entered, then how you will ensure that he will not, the risk won't be spread, or risk will be contained there only. Controls, there are certain controls that are fit into multiple categories. A firewall is primarily a preventive control, but there could also be a detective control. So CCTV cameras are primarily detective controls, but can act as a preventive controls also, as they may scare off potential intruders. No? That's why everywhere you will find a board CCTV, you are under CCTV surveillance. It acts as both a detective control and a preventive control also. Firewall also both preventive and detective control. And they will help us about CCTV and firewalls, multiple functions, both preventive and detective functions they will do, it was mentioned. And this recovery, business continuity and continued improvement play large roles in the recovery function. You know, again, some standards are there, business BS business continuity standards are there, global best standards are there. Business continuity and continual improvement play large roles in recovery function. After having responded to an incident and stabilized the situation, it is time to fully recover. You should be in a position to fully functional. Okay. Again, this again aligns with the organizational business continuity process and the efforts made by the organization for restoration of the business to normalcy. So actually returning to the status quo rather than just running on minimally acceptable functionality, in addition to taking action to prevent the incident from recovering. Okay, so not with minimal functioning. Initially, the bank has started with some function, then after some time, someday they came to full functional, and taken precautions to not to recur it. It's but that not to incident not to recur, we are taking, and the adversaries are choosing new methods, and we are zero day attack and all the new vectors they are finding out. When we are having a strategy to prevent some known bugs and all, they are finding that that strategies to infiltrate into our system. Yesterday in a big forum, people, CISOs of large companies, they shared that always we are reactive, always the policeman chasing the thief. They are ahead of us. Very vibrant CISOs, Indian CISOs, they admitted that we are in a reactive mode. Yes, reactive mode only, but you should be in a position that the risk should be within the risk appetite of the organization. The incident happened, whatever BFSI incident happened a few years back, the cost of the incident is around 80 crores or 60, 90 crores of Indian rupees. The share capital and reserves of the bank are 150 crores or much above that. That is within the tolerable risk appetite of the organization. That's why the organization could be in a position to sustain it. So how precisely you could be able to measure it? And I am a student of risk management, but I don't know whether any precise measurement of risk is there, but we should make all of our efforts to reset the risk within the risk tolerance. So we'll be risk, how to deal with risk also at a later stage. In another slide, we'll be discussing with you. So as of now, in this, we are telling that the recovery should happen. It can happen wholesale or in stages also. Recovery, again, a recovery strategy, a huge organization, how you are going to recover. If how phase wise you will recover or entirely you will recover, that depends on the risk recovery strategy of the organization. Each organization will take a different path to fulfill recovery in line with the nature and size of the incident, as well as the organization's specific circumstances. Again, it depends from the sector, which sector, oil sector, manufacturing sector, or critical infrastructure like nuclear power plants and all. It all sector specific. And in manufacturing also usually depends whether you are in steel or cement, whether you are in it also depends on the sector in which you are there, and it there. And to support this, in Government of India is coming out with sector specific settings, so that they will specialize in the sector, and initially they are targeting for a BFSI setting, so that the financial services sector will be protected to a great extent. So the recovery process will be alignment with the organizational policy and specific to the industry and the circumstances in which your organization landscape is situated. And every organization should have a recovery plan in place. You may wish to take the approach that securing essential services and resilient supplies will be critical to the recovery policies, and which is something so you can prepare in advance long before an incident actually occurs. So again, recovery, they have generally spoken about recovery, like any general recovery, IT recovery, like you should have dedicated supplies also. Suppose it is a data center has to run, you should have multiple power systems. You should have generator, you should have all the things, are locational, geographical data centers and all. And like people like very big now the data centers are there, control, yes, not one, there are several, like multi-geographical area, they are functioning. So these kind of a data centers will give you can have in DR in Bangalore, and you can have your DC in Hyderabad, and control else will provide you both. And this kind of recovery options came to you, but all options will come at a cost, and you have to choose. So that is recover. And then we came to this one, the 5 functions, that is identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. Identify what, during identify you have to do the risk assessment and assets value and all. You have to value of the asset and value of the asset, and then you can implement the control, how asset is critical to the organization and all. With a risk assessment, you have to do that one. And then only then the second step of protecting it, identity management and the access controls or risk assessment will help you in this identify function. And this protective function, identity and management and access controls, they are helpful in protecting and in detecting security and continuous monitoring, detection, IDS, IPS, IDS, firewalls and all, whatever we mentioned about detective. And the response is this analysis, your event analysis, logs analysis and all, your own body of knowledge and your own thought process, and Monte Carlo principles and all certain frameworks. I don't know, advanced countries, US and all simulations, they will use something, what kind of simulations, and they will be using in respond and recovery, your own recovery planning, how you will recover from that infected system and how you allow that infection won't go to other parts and how you will recover that portion. Then for the 5 identify, protect, detect, respond and recover, we mentioned the categories are risk management, identity and access management, and continuous security monitoring and the analysis and recovery planning. The subcategories for risk assessment are the threats, both internal and external, are identified and documented. Okay. Again, NIST, if you go to the website of NIST, the threat analysis and all, huge body of bone, and there are several frameworks of how to threat analysis and all. It's again a body of knowledge. The cybersecurity personnel, you are all cybersecurity personnel and all system security persons. There are some various frameworks about that vulnerable threats and identification of threats and both internal and external. Then this protect remote access is managed and detect vulnerability access are performed, vulnerability scans are performed, vulnerability scans, VAPT and all, to identify, detecting it, we will do it, and responding. Forensics are performed for forensic again. Forensic, then only you can be in a position to analyze it properly, understand it properly, eliminate all false positives, and really identify the risk, and then you will be taking the action plan. And this recovery plan is executed during or after a cybersecurity. During the cybersecurity, what is the recovery, and after the cybersecurity, whatever it is, the top management should be in sync with. It should not be security. We are all security professionals. Is the function of the board. Security is the function of everybody, and you are as secure at the least link in the chain. And recently, yeah, there is a NIST website. If you go, human is the weakest link. That's why they are telling your password also automate the password. Passwordless access. Password itself is a security, huge concepts. So I am telling you here 4 or 5 things. Whatever the body of human is the weakest link, human forgotten 60% of the breaches happen due to human failure, even now also. So security awareness is most important. Security is a board level. It is not the CISO job role. It is the CEO, it is the chairman, it is the board job role. CISO will lead the function of mitigating the risk within the available resources at him. So everybody's response, so recovery. CES 20 controls are actually there is an alignment of CES controls with cybersecurity framework. And again, they say that the top 5 of the CES controls, Monte Carlo principle, that Pareto principle says 20% of your certain efforts will give you 80% of the results. So Pareto principle, 20-80 principle, predominantly known in management, that applies many places, and that can be used in security containment also. Suppose one CISO is there, one company is there, we were given with X number of resources only. So there is no negotiation. So top management has given you $1 million. So how you will do? So only Monte Carlo, that Pareto principle, 20% of your risks will lead to 80% of the outage. You identify the top 20%, and if you are precise in identifying the top 20, that will give you 80% result, you are a great successful CISO. So that identification needs a lot of efforts and study also. So here somebody who studied and he told this top 5 controls are will contain 80% of the risks. CES 20 controls, this top 5. And OWSP top 20 is there. We are having OWSP top 10 is there, and how much percentage is also there. And we are having another framework also. What is that? SANS framework is also there. All the frameworks are there, and you IT professionals are much advanced than me. So this 5 controls are inventory of authorized and unauthorized devices. Inventory of authorized and unauthorized devices, and inventory of authorized and unauthorized software. Secure configuration for hardware and software, and continuous vulnerability assessment and remediation, and the controlled use of administrative privileges. So a lot of softwares were designed to control use of administrative privileges. So there are somebody, you deactivate administrative privilege to everybody, then the risk will be reduced to a great extent. Or by default, administrative privilege should not be available. They are telling you keep a icon. If you go to that, and then only you activate your administrative privilege, and then you do. Normal user do. Wherever breaches have happened, everybody, anything happened, any bag damage happened to any company, the culprit has gone and he has access to administrative privileges, and then he could create huge damage to the organization. So inventory of authorized and unauthorized devices, inventory of authorized and unauthorized software, secure configuration for hardware and software, and continuous vulnerability assessment and remediation, and controlled use of administrative privileges. I don't know. Here, this body of knowledge, this school kept it administrative privilege as the 5th one out of the top 20. And my experience, or whatever I read everywhere, the administrative privileges are also very equally very, very important. So this 5, they say that if this CAS 5 controls it were effectively implemented, 80% of the risks will be remediated or identified. The core elements of IT, the cybersecurity framework, how they interact, the functions, categories, subcategories, and informative references. Functions are 5 to achieve that to protect, detect, recover, whatever 5 we have mentioned, that 5 are the cybersecurity basic phases, and the categories, necessary activities to fulfill each of the function, and subcategories are controls to measure each of the category is addressed adequately, and the informative references are best practice reference or guidance on how each subcategory can be approached. Other best practices that they told is a cluster of the best practices already established. It very drafts his body of knowledge from ISO 27001 framework and COVID framework and other best frameworks. The cybersecurity framework, NIST framework, is also called as a risk-based cybersecurity framework. In a risk-based framework, we identify the risks and we determine the level of the risk in terms of impact and likelihood and frequency. Impact and likelihood and frequency. How much dollars, how frequently, how many times, how frequently. How much dollars, how many times, how frequently. and then comparing those risks to the organization risk appetite, risk tolerance. Yeah, whatever the budgets to cybersecurity will be depending on the organization's ability to give the budget, but within the budget, a robust framework should be framed and should be implemented by the security professionals. So yeah, the risks, organization risk and risk, there are various measures to risk tolerance, how you would handle with the risk that will be shared to you in the next slide, and determining an appropriate response to the level and type of the risk. So the framework is proactively identifying the risks and determining the level of the risk in terms of its impact, likelihood, and frequency, and comparing these risks with the organization's risk appetite. Again, no, every IT is doing a business. So business is most important. How much business value should always be determined on the business impact only, na? On how much business impact, how critical functions of business are impacted. So, and then determining the response, appropriate response level to the type of the risks, whatever the risk and what is the level of response you have to do. The risk assessment is based on two steps. It is assessment is asset-based assessment and a scenario-based assessment. Asset-based assessment will have the asset inventory of the organization and the threats to the organization, and determines the vulnerabilities to the vulnerabilities. And here a good concept: a vulnerability without a threat can't exploit. That cannot be exploited is no risk. A vulnerability without a threat is a no risk, and a threat with no vulnerability to exploit is not a risk. So the asset-based approach of risk assessment contains inventory of the assets and vulnerabilities and threats, and the probability of their vulnerability being impacting a threat, and what is the dollar value if both will can be exploited, what is the dollar value. So that is the asset-based approach. And the scenario-based approach is in case of scenario-based approach, it 9/11 US incident. If an earthquake happens, what will be happening to your organization? US is known for tornadoes and all. And that's why very great disaster recovery initiatives will be carried out by organizations. They are very robust. Business continuity policies will be there. So the scenario-based risk incident is like the serial bomb blast in Bombay. We faced a serial bomb blast, and what will be happened? Scenario B. And in Bombay, you are surprisingly knowing floods will happen. 2007, 67 years back happened. So what is the scenario-based risk assessment you have to understand? That is for your general risk assessment and a cyber risk assessment also. The scenario-based risk assessment based on that only. When Bombay was flooded with water and all, in BFSI sector, Reserve Bank of India came out with a alternate site. You should have a treasury around 25 kilometers away from the city. If your treasury sinks, so you should be in a position to work from a remote location that is around 25 kilometers away. So all the banks in Bombay, they had a near physical site. We had in BFSI near site of data, wherein the zero loss will be there. Data will be replicated in the near site quickly, and that will be around 25 to 50 kilometers near site. Data replication is there. BFSI sector, all banks follow that one, and the data and near for critical functions in the banking sector like clearing houses, treasury operations, Reserve Bank prescribed a near physical site wherein all this equipment should be there, all the things there. If your original site is inundated and nobody can reach it, you should go to that one. So this is the scenario-based risk assessment, and each method is having its own drawbacks and all. Wisdom prevails ultimately. So I told you earlier that I will discuss a thing about the risk, various risk, how you management of risk, how you handle your risk. There are basically four concepts that is avoiding risk. Avoiding risk is a public sector job. So I am having employment throughout my life cycle. So I avoid risk. So that is my risk appetite is less. So I have not joined in a private sector, multinational bank or a private sector bank. Public sector employment is avoiding risk. So avoiding risk is means very conservative organizations will avoid risk. And in banking sector also avoid risk will be there in business level also. I will give you loan to you at competitive price. Then I will avoid, I will require very high net worth individuals. So there are two classes of banks. One class of bank want a AAA portfolio or AA portfolio. The margins will be so thin they want to operate in. Whereas the other bank is a this one junk bonds and all they will take huge risk and where the returns are huge. So it depends on the culture, risk appetite, risk culture of the organization. So risk you avoid if you want to terminate the source of the threat, perhaps. So I will not give internet banking access to my customers. So I avoid the risk completely. Cyber risk is completely eliminated. I don't give physical manual. Wherever 2007 I am there, you will come to me. I am left with only internal risks. My one cashier siphoning of the funds or something. So my systems were not there. They were not interacting with the internet. So that is altogether avoiding the risk. So bank with no internet banking, then and customers also avoid risk. I worked in somewhere in World City area of Hyderabad. He's a computer software dean in a US university, great university. He's software dean in a global university in US. He told, no, I don't want internet banking. So he avoids risk. I will come physically. My money will be there in your account only. You don't force me for internet banking. I don't. So that is avoiding risk. Not certain business activities, the business will not know. When BFSI banking licenses were open, initially Tata's wanted to come to bank and they had made all the studies and all. Ultimately, they told that, okay, we don't want to coming into a full-fledged bank as of now. So they told, avoid the risk, let Tata's don't enter the banking sector. Let us not apply for a banking license, not doing the business, avoid risk. And there can be other examples of avoiding risks that I don't work, I don't deal in that product, then I will avoid the risk. Then modifying the risk means I will implement the security control so that I can reduce the impact and likelihood, and I will, its modification is also called management of the risk. I will try to manage the risk within the tolerance. Actually, second phase is only risk reward sign off will be there in the second phase. If you don't do anything, if you want to avoid accident, if you don't travel, how you will do business? You have to travel, but you should be risk aware decision making and risk aware travel. You should travel safely. So modification is risk management. You will implement security controls that will reduce the impact, that will reduce the likelihood of the risk, and that is the hallmark. And your maturity, your managing depends on your ability, your agility, your tools, techniques, knowledge, everything. And we are all in the risk. We will spend most of our life in managing the risk. And the sharing the risk is there, that is transferring the risk to another party through insurance. Cyber insurance was also mandated by Reserve Bank of India. So after that incident of the cooperative bank and all, that cooperative bank also had a cyber insurance policy, but the policy may not be that policy also, how the policy, that's also again a think tank, how much you want. The policy should be in a position to recover you for from the disaster. So like your personal insurance, how much worth your life. So your housing loan is 1 crore rupees or some other things are there. So I have to go for a 2 crore minimum insurance, life insurance, so that the impact will not be passed on to my family. So again, cyber insurance is a very great body of knowledge, how much insurance and what premium and what the cyber insurance also, they will charge the premium based on the cyber security culture of the organization and the controls that were placed, effectiveness of the controls and the efficiency of the controls, and the CTO, CRO, CIO, and CISO views on the security. So understand me. So the organization determines the risk premium to your organization on the cultural ethos of your organization, and what is the perspective for security of your CTO? What is the perspective of your CIO for security? Okay, CISO, okay. He is the flag bearer. He is the owner of the risk, or he is the remediator of the risk and all. CISO perspective, whether they are thinking with the CISO perspective or not. The CTO, CIO, CRO, all should be in sync. Then only the organization will have a proper risk culture. And this retention is actively choosing to tolerate the risk. Retain, I will retain. Yes, I will travel. I will go at 70 kilometers an hour. I will follow this one. I will know rash riding and all these policies. I will follow. I do the things in a managed and administered way, so that my risk is within the risk appetite of the organization. So here a huge body of knowledge will be offered by NIST. NIST risk management framework. I suggest my viewers to follow the NIST risk management framework, a wonderful body of knowledge. And in this NIST cybersecurity framework, we'll try to understand the current profile of the organization, and we try to have a target profile, and we will try to identify the gap, and for the gap remediation, we try to controls identified gaps, and then we will work on the effectiveness and efficiency and the functioning of the controls 24/7. So cybersecurity framework depends on my own current profile, and my own target profiles. How much risk profile I want? What is the gap? Identified gap, risk assessment. Then what are the measures? What are the cyber security measures I want to implement them? And then continuous monitoring whether my measure is working effectively, efficiently, SOC and all, whatever this is continuous monitoring. So again, the implementation earlier I told you it is modular in structure. So it can be, the framework can be implemented in a partial way. It can be implemented in a risk informed way. It is a repeatable way, and it is an adaptive way. So cybersecurity frameworks mentioned 4 types. One is partial, one is risk informed, one is repeatable, one is adaptive. So I need not go to adaptive framework on the very first one. If I am an organization is not having a framework at all, I can go to partial. Then I can go to risk informed, and then I go to repeatable. Then I am adaptive. They are like the capability maturity model, CMMI, CMMI 5 of ISACA. So CMMI Institute was taken over by ISACA long back. I hope my president of ISACA, Deshpande, Sanjeev Deshpande from Bombay, is also logged in. The greatest ISACA chapter, Bombay President Deshpande, I greet him. He's also witnessing this event. So capability maturity model, CMMI, was taken over by ISACA 3 years back. Capability maturity model was adopted by Carnegie Mellon University. It's a gift to the universe. IT fraternity by Carnegie Mellon University of US, the best university, one of the best universities in IT. So partial risk informed, repeatable and adaptive framework. And this partial framework means don't have anything. Partial framework, it's not having anything. the approaches, cybersecurity risk approaches are managed or intuitive or a reactive way, and without any, there's no processes, or there are no measurable processes are not established. Furthermore, little or no collaboration with the external parties taking place to make sure that the risk management procedures are reliable or effective or carried out. And the risk informed process are so entire entity wise, other departments are involved in the cybersecurity activities, and your supply chain members are involved, because supply chain nowadays becoming, it is the critical risk to cybersecurity risk. Recently, one incident happened. Some sub-vendor to Maruti, they hacked the systems and all. So when they told this much data is there, so that sub-vendor told, I don't have anything, I don't pay any ransomware. So they have gone to Maruti. So this much data is there. Shall you pay the ransomware? Otherwise, I will leak the ransomware. So supply chain becoming a critical risk to in manufacturing sector, and this risk informed process, that is the second tier. And third tier are repeatable, where documentation of formal process and the procedures and the regular update of the processes, organizations, risk objective changes, threats, technologies, and staff are not just aware of the cybersecurity roles and responsibilities and have enough resources. The repeatable are there when what is the budget to your cybersecurity? Enough resources, training and development and all. They have adequate knowledge and skills to perform their defined standards, them to define standards. And external collaboration, supply chain risk management take place, collaboration with others will take place, potentially preventing these same events happening in your own organization. No? And therefore protecting your own reputation and the finance. That's what I told. Small vendor of Maruti told, whatever you do, come. Then they approached Maruti. Through your vendor, I got this customer data. Shall I leak it? Ransomware. Then this 4 is highly, tier 4 is the highest level. This is highly adaptive. This cybersecurity managements are formal, rigorous process, and informed by past experience and current activities. You have to learn from your past experience how a risk impaired your organization, what is the risk remediation, and the risk remediation is continuously working or not. Then you have contain this adaptive process will contain predictive indicators which help prevent known events from affecting your predictive intelligence is being used globally in fraud. Also predictive intelligence is used in cybersecurity, also predictive vigilance. And the other day CIA triad, CFE, that human triad, how you can be implemented. There are some people, there's a collaboration with certified fraud examiners. Certified fraud examiners, the fraud triad. Fraud triad can be used in cybersecurity. Fraud triad is that one, what is the fraud triad? I've forgotten. Fraud triad is like CIA triad is for ISACA, and fraud triad is there, that rationalization and rationalization, and what is that one? Rationalization is the third one of the fraud triad, and that one, pressure, opportunity, pressure, and rationalization. So understand me. Certified fraud examiners, CFE, body of knowledge hovered on fraud triad. CRESI, after 40-year research in USA, all prisons, CRESI triad, the fraud triad. Opportunity, pressure, and rationalization. Now, if the three things, then fraud will happen. So for your cyber threat also, opportunity, pressure, rationalization. Okay, rationalization don't have, Pressure is the money, motivation, opportunity is your own vulnerabilities, and rationalization happens when case of state-sponsored frauds. There are state-sponsored frauds happening. That is rationalization. They want this country, I want to spoil them. State-sponsored. So those kind of frameworks can also be adapted in your cybersecurity framework. So fourth tier is adapt to highest level. Your organization is in the continuous learning model, continually improved model. Your culture of the strong cybersecurity awareness, and this is highest level. And this implementation, this only 5 minutes I will take. The implementation is you determine your objectives and priorities, and for the implementation of the NIST cybersecurity framework, you determine the objectives, you determine your practices, and you determine your scope. Then you identify your assets and risks. Then you create a different current profile of your landscape, and you conduct a risk assessment, and you create a targeted profile, how much risk you want to reduce and what is your target profile, and you perform a gap analysis, and you implement the action plan to fill the gap analysis and to achieve the target profile. So thank you so much. I leave here with a small note that this NIST framework is greatly aligned with ISO 27001. ISO 27001 has principles such as whatever the cybersecurity framework also suggests. There are risk management, top management oversight, and continual improvement. So risk management, cyber risk management, top management oversight. That's why Reserve Bank of India and BFSI mentioned during the Gopalakrishna Committee recommendations also. 2000 year itself, to 2010 itself, Gopalakrishna Committee telling that IT steering committee, IT risk management and all, risk management should be a board level issue. Top management oversight should be happened. Cyber security should happen at the, so top management should give sufficient time to cyber security management, and continual improvement to attain the fourth tier of NIST framework. So I end here. NIST framework is highly aligned with the global frameworks. So ISO 27001 aligned organizations can implement the NIST framework by using the same controls. And it is modular in structure. It is tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4. Tier 4 is the highest tier where continuous learning, continual improvement will happen. You can go to tier 4. So it is a 7-year-old research conducted, and it's freely available. So NIST website contains huge body of knowledge, and thank you for listening to me, and trying to reach you with the permission of Nitin Pathak in another session to you all. Thank you so much. Once again, thank to ISACA Ahmedabad chapter.
Concluding remarks. Wonderful session, wonderful talk, mind-boggling marathon talk, really voracious speaker with knowledge, with clarity. And I salute to him from the bottom of my heart, not only because he's sharing this thing. I invite many speakers to come and have a talk on different subject, may or may not be related to ISACA, but it will be forwarding ISACA. I've been going to some Swaminarayan temple, and Swaminarayan temple is always wishing their Swaminarayan temple to grow, but they keep other god and goddesses with them. So we as a ISACA chapter not only focusing on ISACA subject only, but other subject also. So I request and thank you all for joining on this course. This is available on my blog. This talk we are recording, which would be available blog. PPT would be available on blog. Our past presentation available on blog. And you will get a CP once you just mail me. I'll issue a certificate. On the basis of that, you will be entitled to claim the credit. If any past credit is left, you can WhatsApp me, and people are asking for CP certificate. But now I'll be issuing immediately. With this, there are for every Friday 6:30, we are meeting on Zoom. We request those who are attending, invite more speakers, more friends, and last but not least, India is growing at such a pace that India can beat any of the country in the world. But to do that, there are leaders are required, there are followers are required, there are a lot of commitment is required, not only capital, but human is the most important capital we have it. I want India to grow at a faster pace than we thought of it. Now, I'm visiting a number of places, but we are far, far behind than China, because the people in India is very reluctant to work the way they are working. When I'm seeing Gudgu Saab, the way he's working in office, the way he's ready to take lectures, I wish many more come forward and take a talk. With this, I wish Isaka chapter a great time. I wish you all come here and enjoy with me. Thank you for coming next again meeting on next Friday 6:30 with different subject with different faculty. Thank you all, and once again thank you, Mr. Gudgu sir. Once again thank you. See you. Good night. Sabah khair. Anyone wants to ask a question? You are allowed to unmute and have some sharing, unmute themselves. You can talk. Somebody wants to share something. However, you can unmute yourself. Now this option is open. If anybody want to say something, they can say. We are ready to listen. You can unmute yourself now. You can start your own video. Okay. Chalo, take care. See you everyone. Good night. I'm closing the chapter now.